They sent guards to block my daughter's wedding, only to end their day in handcuffs, the costliest mistake that arrogant HOA president ever made. I'm James Harper, owner of the 20-acre Starlight Valley Ranch in Texas. When the HOA decided to barricade my daughter's wedding guests at the gate, they didn't know one crucial detail. The man standing beside me was the county sheriff. The look in her eyes when those handcuffs clicked shut? Priceless. She thought she controlled my land. She was wrong. Never mess with a Texan on his own soil, especially one who knows the law better than you do. If you've ever had your own HOA nightmare, drop a comment. This story will shock you. Let's dive into how a father determined to give his daughter the perfect wedding turned an HOA president's power trip into her greatest regret. Starlight Valley Ranch has been in my family for 3 generations. My grandfather bought these 20 acres in the 1950s, when this part of Texas was nothing but wide-open plains. I grew up here, riding horses across the rolling hills, helping my father with the cattle, and memorizing every corner of this rugged, beautiful land. After 20 years as a real estate attorney in Dallas, I retired early when my father passed, returning to run the family ranch. It was the best decision I ever made. My wife, Laura, and our daughter, Sarah, joined me. Sarah, then in high school, fell in love with the ranch as much as I did. She'd spend hours with the horses, dreaming of becoming a veterinarian. Now, at 28, she runs her own large animal practice, respected across the county. When she and her fiancé, Michael Torres, decided to marry, there was no question where it would happen. Under the ancient oak tree where generations of Harpers celebrated life's milestones. That oak, over 150 years old, is a local legend. Its sprawling branches form a natural cathedral, sunlight filtering through in a way no church could match. My parents married there, as did my grandparents. When Sarah was 8, she declared she'd wed under that tree someday. When she met Michael in veterinary school and brought him home, I saw him gaze at the oak with a reverence that told me he understood its meaning to our family. Michael, a civil engineer, was steady, methodical, the kind of man every father hopes his daughter finds. Their connection was instant, cemented when he asked to meet her favorite horse on their 3rd date, a request that spoke volumes about his character. Trouble began 5 years ago when a developer bought the land bordering our ranch's eastern edge. Before we knew it, a polished subdivision called Crestwood Pines sprang up next door. This wouldn't have been an issue, except for one hitch. The only road to our ranch passes through Crestwood Pines. As an attorney, I knew to secure a legal easement when the development was planned. The developer and I signed the paperwork, filed it with the county, and I thought that settled it. I had legal right-of-way to my property, plain and simple. For years, things were fine. The original HOA board was reasonable, and most residents were friendly. We'd wave as we drove through, even inviting them to our annual 4th of July barbecue. Some became regulars, bringing their kids to see the horses or joining weekend trail rides. I believed we were bridging the gap between old rural Texas and the new suburban sprawl. Then Margaret Ellison was elected HOA president, and everything changed. I'd heard whispers about her obsession with rules, but I didn't pay much mind. Me easement meant I wasn't under their jurisdiction. I'd spot her during drives through the subdivision, measuring lawns with a ruler or snapping photos of unapproved decorations. It seemed excessive, but it wasn't my concern. Margaret, a former corporate manager downsized after a merger, had moved to Crestwood Pines post-divorce to reinvent herself. At 5 feet 4 inches, with a sharp gray bob, thin glasses, and a smile that never reached her eyes, she dressed like she was perpetually headed to a board meeting. It's about community standards, she'd say at HOA meetings, but what she meant was control. Within weeks of her election, violation notices skyrocketed, fines for grass too tall, trash cans left out, or holiday lights up past regulation. She raised dues for beautification projects that suspiciously favored properties near her own, cementing her reign over Crestwood Pines. The previous president, Robert Hayes, a retired principal, had fostered a relaxed community with block parties and a shared garden. Margaret dismantled that. The garden became an untouchable landscape display. Block parties were canceled for liability, and violation notices surged 300% in her first month. Unbeknownst to most, she was desperate to sell her house at a markup to fund a city council campaign. My ranch, with its working animals and unmanicured charm, was, in her eyes, a blight lowering property values. She couldn't force me to change, but she could make my life hell. 4 months before Sarah's wedding, I attended a Crestwood Pines HOA meeting to inform them of the event and the expected traffic. Margaret, all perfect teeth and cold eyes, said, "We're concerned about property values, Mr. Harper. Strange vehicles in our prestigious community might send the wrong message." I showed her my easement documents, explained it was a one-day event, and thought that settled it. Her nod felt hollow, and as I left, I sensed trouble brewing. I didn't know she was already scheming to turn Sarah's wedding into a legal nightmare, her plan taking shape the moment I walked out. Margaret was meticulous. Her house, a showcase of polished surfaces and pristine carpets, reflected her need for control. Family photos showed her with her ex-husband and grown kids, all sporting her forced smile. She saw the HOA as her fiefdom and my ranch as a threat to her vision of perfection. After our meeting, small conflicts erupted. Complaints about my tractor's visibility, animal noise, and workers setting up for the wedding needing to register with the HOA rule she invented. Each time, I stood firm, citing my easement. A neighbor later told me Margaret was conducting property value impact assessments near my ranch, lying to buyers that it was a temporary situation soon to be developed. Her lies revealed her ruthlessness. Charles "Chuck" Larson, the HOA vice president and a retired Navy officer, seemed uneasy during these clashes. Once, when Margaret stepped away, he muttered, "Not all of us agree with her, James." His military respect for authority kept him in line, but I sensed he was nearing a breaking point. Ellen Murray, the HOA secretary and a kind-hearted preschool teacher, was more open. She'd forget to send violation notices or warn residents about inspections, undermining Margaret's extremes. 2 weeks before the wedding, Ellen texted me. "Margaret called an emergency board meeting. They're discussing restricting large events. Be careful." I sent a formal letter to the HOA, reiterating my rights and including easement copies, hoping to deter her. Ellen's follow-up was chilling. Margaret hired a security company. I've never seen her so cold. This is serious. My ranch's security camera later caught Margaret and a shady man scoping the subdivision entrance at midnight, evidence that would unravel her scheme. A week later, a letter arrived from HOA legal counsel, actually Margaret's law student nephew, claiming violations and threatening to block access during the wedding. Sarah was devastated, tears in her eyes as she read it. Michael, ever calm, hugged her and said, "We'll fix this." I called my friend Tom Reynolds, a real estate attorney. He confirmed my easement was ironclad. "This is harassment," he said. "They're trying to bully you into canceling." He drafted a response warning of legal action if the HOA interfered. Margaret countered with a notice insisting we move the wedding to a more appropriate venue. Laura, my wife of 30 years and a former teacher with a steel spine, wanted to confront Margaret herself. Sarah and Michael, with 150 guests flying in, were stressed that it was too late to relocate. That's when I called my oldest friend, Sheriff William "Bill" Carter. We'd been buddies since high school, served in the military together, and stayed close as he rose to sheriff and I practiced law. When I explained, he said, "This doesn't sound legal, James." Sarah's original best man, Michael's brother, had fallen ill, so Bill offered to step in. "I'd be honored," he said, "and having the sheriff on site might help." We kept his role quiet, not showing our full hand. Bill, 6 feet 3 inches with salt and pepper hair and a commanding presence, was elected sheriff 3 times running. He knew county law like his own heartbeat. 10 days before the wedding, an official notice claimed the entrance road would be closed for emergency maintenance on the wedding daytime to disrupt without allowing rescheduling. I learned Margaret had hired Vanguard Security, led by Derek Vance, a former deputy fired from Bill's department for excessive force. Her choice of a questionable firm hinted at her expectation of conflict. I found Vanguard's license was under review for guards carrying unpermitted weapons. That evening, Laura, Sarah, Michael, Bill, and I strategized. Bill confirmed no permits existed for road work. "This is a private HOA action," he said. "They're overstepping." We considered an alternate route through my neighbor Frank Wheeler's land, though guests would need to park and walk. Frank, a lifelong rancher and my father's friend, cleared a path along his fence line. "Those city folks can't push us around," he growled. "Sarah's getting her wedding under that oak." I was done being polite. "If Margaret wants a legal fight, she'll get onion my terms," I said. We didn't know she'd doubled the security force and equipped them with cameras, or that a tip from a former city councilor would expose her true motive, a political stunt to boost her campaign. The day before the wedding, Michael and I visited Margaret's house, documents in hand. Her smile was gone, replaced by smug anticipation. "Hear about tomorrow's road maintenance?" she asked, ushering us into a living room so sterile it felt like a museum. I laid out our easement papers. "This is legally binding. Blocking access is illegal, and we'll sue if you try." Her eyes narrowed. "The HOA manages its roads. Your noisy, muddy wedding will tank property values. Find another way in." Her doorbell rang, and in walked Derek Vance, a tall man with a buzz cut and a chip on his shoulder. "Derek will handle security," Margaret said, smirking. "His team can manage any situations." Derek boasted about doubling manpower, eyeing us like we were prey. As we left, he followed us to our truck. "Look, Harper, nothing personal, but MS. Ellison pays well. Find another route." His tone suggested he relished the fight. Later, Chuck's wife, Diane, called. "Margaret's not just stopping the wedding, she's staging chaos for her city council campaign. She wants photos of angry guests to show she protects the community." Diane overheard Margaret at a women's group, boasting about her slogan, "From HOA to City Hall, fighting for our values." The blockade was her proof of handling security threats. Bill called with more. Vanguard posted closure notices, but there's no legal permit. Derek was fired from my force for excessive force. He's got a grudge. I shared Diane's intel. "So it's political theater," Bill said. "People do crazy things for power." He'd have 2 deputies on standby, out of sight unless needed. Tom Reynolds sent a legal warning to the HOA, holding board members personally liable for interference. Margaret signed it, received under protest. Meanwhile, Sarah and her bridesmaids focused on joy, decorating the oak with fairy lights and wildflowers. Her dress, a lace gown altered from Laura's, hung ready. Despite the stress, I vowed nothing would ruin her day. That evening, Crestwood Pines residents stopped by to support us. "Not everyone agrees with Margaret," said an elderly woman, Clara. "We respect your ranch's history." Frank offered his land as a backup route. Another resident, Lisa, a young mom, shared receiving 3 violation notices in a week for toys in her yard. The community was fracturing under Margaret's rule. At midnight, Bill texted, "Everything's set. 3 patrol cars, 2 deputies, and Rachel Gomez from the news." Margaret's in for a memorable morning. Rachel, a sharp reporter known for exposing corruption, was Bill's ace to counter Margaret's planned publicity. As I checked the ranch before bed, the oak stood tall in the moonlight, guarding our tradition. Margaret wouldn't break it. The wedding morning dawned clear, a perfect Texas day. Sarah was nervous but radiant, preparing with her bridesmaids. Michael and his groomsmen, including Bill, got ready in the guest cottage. At the ranch, all was perfect. But at 7:30 a.m., Michael and I drove to Crestwood Pines entrance and found barricades, signs reading, "Closed for maintenance, residents only," and 3 Vanguard vehicles. 8 guards loomed, with Margaret in a business suit and Derek directing them. She smirked as we approached. "Good morning, Mr. Harper. As you can see, maintenance is underway. Find another route." Derek stepped forward, chest puffed. "This is private HOA property. Try removing these barriers, and we'll take action." Margaret glanced at a guard filming us, playing to her campaign cameras. "The board voted for this maintenance," she lied, knowing no vote happened. By 9 o'clock, guests lined the county road, turned away by aggressive guards. Sarah was near tears, watching from the ranch. But I stayed calm, unsettling Margaret. "What are you up to, Harper?" she snapped. "You're too calm." I smiled. The day's young, Margaret. Situations resolve naturally. Right then, 3 sheriff's vehicles rolled up, lights flashing. Bill stepped out, no longer a groomsman, but in full sheriff's uniform, badge gleaming. Margaret's jaw dropped. 2 deputies followed. "Miss Ellison," Bill said, "there's no permit for road work. You're blocking a legal easement, violating Texas law." "Mr. Harper has provided documentation." Margaret stammered, "This is an HOA matter." We're maintaining our roads. Bill turned to Derek. Mr. Vance, operating a security firm without a license is a misdemeanor. Did you know yours was suspended? Derek reddened, but stayed silent. A news van arrived, and Rachel Gomez, microphone in hand, emerged with her cameraman, Ethan Cole. Miss Ellison, is it true you're blocking wedding guests? She asked. Margaret's face paled. This is scheduled maintenance, she claimed. Rachel pressed. Why no county permits? My producer checked. Margaret faltered. Rachel turned to Derek. Mr. Vance, care to comment on your license suspension? Bill gave them 5 minutes to remove the barriers or face charges. Residents, including Chuck and Diane, watched, siding with me. As guards dismantled the barricades, Margaret hissed, You've made this a circus, Harper. You'll pay. I met her glare. Threatening me before the sheriff and cameras was her fatal mistake. A ranch cow, later dubbed Victory, wandered near and mooed, perfectly timed as Derek ranted, earning laughs and viral fame. Guests streamed through, unaware of the drama. Bill changed back into groomsman attire, grinning. Margaret didn't know Derek's license was revoked. She picked the wrong guy. The wedding was flawless. Sarah glowed walking down the aisle, Michael beaming. The reception, under string lights with a pink-gold sunset, was joyous, the morning's chaos a distant memory. But Margaret wasn't done. Mid-reception, a county health inspector arrived, citing an anonymous food safety complaint. Our permits were in order, and he apologized. I'm guessing this came from Crestwood Pines, I said. His look confirmed it. Later, loud construction noise erupted near Margaret's Housia generator. She ran to disrupt speeches. Bill investigated, citing noise ordinances, and it stopped. Derek made a final move, parking his vehicle to block departing guests, claiming security observations. When a deputy asked him to move, Derek shoved him, shouting about his rights. Within seconds, he was handcuffed for assault and obstruction, Olivia filming it all. Victory the cow mooed again, sealing the viral moment. Most guests missed the drama, dancing under the stars. After Sarah and Michael left for their honeymoon, Bill shared that Derek's firm had been operating illegally, and Margaret likely knew. Former Judge Evelyn Carter, a guest, opined, the HOA faces liability for harassment and hiring unlicensed security. This won't end well. She predicted more residents would come forward, and she was right. That evening, Margaret emailed Crestwood Pines residents, claiming I'd manipulated law enforcement with political ties and threatening to sue. Sympathetic neighbors forwarded it to me, more evidence of her vindictiveness. The email backfired. Over 50 residents demanded her resignation. Olivia's story, headlined, HOA Abuse, Wedding Blocked, Sheriff Intervenes, went viral with ranch justice and HOA Tyrant. Margaret's shocked face became a meme, captioned, When your power trip meets real power. Victory the cow earned the nickname Justice Cow. Margaret's threatening emails to silence residents were leaked, fueling outrage. At an emergency HOA meeting, I presented my case with documentation. Chuck revealed Margaret misused funds to hire Vanguard without board approval. A recording, provided by Derek's brother, Nathan Vance, captured Margaret ordering a siege for campaign photos. Her meltdown screaming about conspiracies sealed her fate. A 45-2 vote removed her, only her nephew and one neighbor dissenting. The aftermath was swift. The HOA sued Margaret for $250,000 in damages, banning her from HOA roles for a decade. Derek got 6 months in jail, 2 years probation, and a permanent license revocation. Chuck became president, codifying my easement in the bylaws. Starlight Valley Ranch and Crestwood Pines forged a new bond, hosting joint events. The road was named Harmony Way, symbolizing unity. Sarah and Michael had a child, with Bill as godfather. The ranch became a community hub, Victory a local star. Margaret sold her house at a 40% loss, her political dreams crushed. She moved out of state, rejected by new HOAs after her infamy spread. Derek worked as a night stalker in Oklahoma, his firm defunct. My story became a law school case study on easement rights, taught by Professor Carla Mendez. She invited me to speak, saying, James showed that legal rights are only as strong as your will to defend them. At our annual barbecue, now a ranch subdivision event, I share this tale, ending with, never underestimate a Texan who loves his family. especially when he's an attorney with the sheriff as his best man. Margaret learned the hard way. In America, no one's above the law, and on my land, justice grows as tall as that ancient oak.